Kakadosh Boker Tov, Shavua Tov, Masechet Yevamot Daf Samech Bet Amud Aleph 62A1. Samech Bet 62. We were on the concept of Bet Shammai and Bet Hillel the Machloket. Where exactly were they learning? How do you know when are you going to be Mekayem Mitzvah Piriyav Rivya? Is it going to be with two males or a male and a female? So Bet Shammai says it was two males, and the reason was they learned to buy from Moses. Yeah, from Moses. Moses. No. Two males by itself. That's Bet Shammai. Bet Shammai learns two males by itself because of Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu had two males, and Bet Hillel learned from Briyato Shalom, from the creation of the world, which was Adam and Eve, Adam v'Chava. So Adam and Chava was a male and a female. So first of all, Bet Shammai, they do not learn like Bet Hillel because they say En Dani Nevshar Nishi Evshar. Says 1 second, the creation of the world had to be a male and a female, because if it wasn't a male and a female, you would not be able to have any children afterwards, and then you have problems. So therefore, because of that, he comes and he says the what's it called, the creation of the world, you cannot learn from it. So therefore, creation of the world was male and female, fine, but afterwards it could be two males. Okay. 1 second, why doesn't Bet Hillel learn from Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu had two males, right? He had two boys. So answers the Gemara, Amri lecha, Bet Hillel are going to answer to you, Moshe midatehu davad. Moshe, he separated on his own. Meaning you can't bring me a proof from Moshe Rabbeinu that he had two boys and then he separated from his wife because it said he was Mekayim Piriyav Rivya. He separated on his own. The Tanya was learned to the Braita. Shelosha devarim asa Moshe midato. There were three devarims, not one. Three devarims, right? That he did midato. Iskima dato ledat hamakom, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed with him on these shelosha devarim. Yeah, what were the shelosha devarim? Number one, Pidesh Min Isha. He separated from the woman, separated from his wife. Number two, Shiberet HaLuchot. He broke the Luchot. And number three, Hosif Yom Echad. He added one day onto the Shloshet Yimei Agbalah. He added one day before Shavuot. Right? He added an extra day. And we're going to explain now. This is, by the way, a beautiful Gemara. Pidesh Min Isha. How do we know he separated from the wife? My Darash. What did he say? He said, Amar, 1 second, by Matan Torah, Bnei Israel only spoke to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It was only that one day, Matan Torah. It was just Lefi Shah, that's it. It wasn't every single day. It was just that day. And he gave them a time. Amrat Torah, the Torah says, Al tigeshu el isha. Don't get close to a woman. You have to segregate yourself. You have to be pure. The women have to be pure. Everyone has to be pure. Ani, sheniyuchad dibur b'chol shah. But for me, I have every single moment the Shekhinah is going to speak to me. I don't have a time. It's not like God comes and tells me, right, on Monday at 2:45, I'm going to speak to you. Or on Thursday at, it's like, there's no Kavua Zman. It's like Baba Haki. You have to call him every single day. You call him every all day. It's not Kavua Zman. So what happens, right? I have to separate from the woman, obviously. Right? V'skima dato ledat hamakom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed to him. How do we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed to him? He says over here, lechem olahem, shuvu lachem laolechem, ve'ata po amod imadi. After Matan Torah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe Rabbeinu, go tell Bnei Yisrael that you could go back to your camps. Shuvu lachem laolechem. Right? But you, ve'ata amod po amod imadi. You're going to be here. You're with me. What do you mean you're with me? You were correct that you separated from the woman. You were correct that you separated from your wife and you're going to stay with me. Second thing, what did he do? Shiberet HaLuchot. He broke the tablets, right? He broke the tablets. Right? What is that? They were talking about the 10 Commandments. He broke the Luchot. My Darash. What was the Drasha? Amar, he went and he said a Kavachomer. Uma Pesach shuecha mishesh meot u'shloshes mitzvot. The Korban Pesach is one of the 613 positive commandments, right, in the Torah. Amrat Torah, the Torah says, Kol benechar lo yochal bo. Any stranger cannot eat from it, which means that it's a sur for a Yisrael, even a mumar. Yisrael mumar is a Yisrael that's not religious. A non-religious Jew is called a mumar, right? So therefore he says,
What is the translation?
Translation.
Probably not today. A person who never was
literal
trained.
translation. So it says, if it's written Kol Ben Nechad, here Ben Nechad does not mean a goy. Here Kol Ben Nechad means even a stranger to the Jews, which means he's a mumar. So therefore he says, Torah kula. Here they did avodah zarah. They do avodah zarah. That's kula Torah kula. You understand? That's what we were learning in the Mishmar. You remember what we learned in the Mishmar? That if you keep the avodah zarah, so then it's like your entire body is going to become holy because you kept the entire Torah. But if chas v'shalom you do avodah zarah, right? Since it's shakul keneged kol Torah, so it's like you destroyed your entire body. Because we talked about the mitzvot and yud ke vav ke is the same thing, right? The mitzvah, right? Mem tzadi vav he, and yud ke vav ke is the exact same name. Because every single time you do a mitzvah, you have the Shem Hashem on you. You have the name of Hashem on that organ, and that's what gives that life to that organ. You guys remember? We just learned this Thursday night, yeah? Yeah? You remember or not? Yes, he says. So what was the Kal Vachomer? The Kal Vachomer was, if right now a Yisrael, Mumar, cannot eat the Korban Pesach, so Kal Vachomer, that if Bnei Yisrael are Meshumadim or Mumarim, whatever you want to call them exactly, so Alacha Kama V'chama, that they cannot receive the Torah. So he went and he destroyed the Luchot. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu did. HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed with him. Why? As it says, right? He says, Al Luchot asher shibarta, ve'amaleh Resh Lakish, says Resh Lakish, Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Moshe, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu to Moshe, Yasher kochacha asher shibarta. Shkoyach, you broke it. Yasher kochacha, that you broke it. Why? Kol hakavod that you broke it. Yeah? The last one, Osif Yom Echad Midato. Yeah? HaKadosh Baruch Hu added one day Midato. Yeah? Then he said, he added on an extra day Midato from himself. What does it mean? He had an extra day of Shoshim Akbala. My Darash, he says, Tichtiv, it says that when you had to separate from the woman right before Matan Torah, it says, V'kidashtama Yom Machad. You have to separate today and tomorrow. Right? So now Moshe Rabbeinu comes and he says, one second, Hayom ze kemachar. Today has to be like tomorrow. Just like machar leloemo. When it says the day, it was a full day. When it says machar, machar means tomorrow. Tomorrow had a night and a day, so it was a full day. So to today, it has to have leloemo. Now v'layla dayin nafakle, but it was already after the nighttime. So if the nighttime already passed, right? So therefore, because now he's during the day and that's when he's getting commanded, so you missed the night. So Shemamina trei yom elebamane. So he says that's why you need 2 days. So therefore, he added an extra day because it wasn't only just today and tomorrow. It was tomorrow. It had to be like tomorrow. So just like tomorrow was a full day, 24-hour period. So too, it had to be a 24-hour period. So I have to add an extra day. So therefore, it was 2 24-hour periods and 1 12-hour period or whatever it is was already during the day. So therefore, it says the Gemara, "V'skima dato ledata makom." So HaKadosh Baruch Hu agreed to him. Because the Shekhinah only came on Shabbat. Remember, the Matan Torah was on Saturday. Shabbat. Matan Torah was on Shabbat. Huh? Matan Torah was Shabbat for sure.
The Fiddle brings another reason.
So Tanya, we learned in a Braita then. Rabbi Natan Omer Rabbi Natan says, Bet Shammai Omrim Shnei Zecharim U'Shtei Nekevot. According to this Shita now, the Braita is saying now, this is what Richard, that's why he was cheating, right? Because in our Mishnah, it only said 2 males. All of a sudden now there's a Braita, and the Braita is quoting Bet Shammai that it's only just 2 males. It's 2 males and 2 females, right? It's double headers. Yeah, you need 2 boys and 2 girls. So Amar Ravuna comes and he says, "My tamad Rabbi Natan libed Bet Shammai." What's the reasoning of Rabbi Natan according to Bet Shammai? Tichtiv, as it says in a pasuk, "Vatosef laledet et achiv et Havel." That Adam went with Chava and he had another child. What was the other child? Et Havel. What is the et? The et comes to say Hevel va'achoto. Kayin va'achoto. Each one came with a twin sister. So therefore, you had 2 boys, right? And you had 2 girls. Even it's written, which means from the fact that you needed a memale makom for Hevel, which was through Shet, because Shet was the other boy that was instead of Hevel because Hevel was killed. So it's mashma the less than 2 boys and 2 girls. There were already the 2 girls, but you needed the 2 boys. So therefore, since Hevel was killed, you need another boy. So you had Shet, right? And Shet was the other boy. So now it's 2 boys and 2 girls. But Rabbanan, with the rabbis, they come and they say, no, what are you talking about? Or do Yehuda Kamodi? No, he wasn't just saying Stam, that means what? Do you really think that Chava was speaking about Bichlal, the mitzvah of Pirya v'Rivya? Nothing to do with now this concept of Pirya v'Rivya. It had to do that she was giving thanks to Hashem, that at the end of the day, since Hevel died, so she was thanking Hashem that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave her another child, which was going to be Shet now. But not because now she's Mekayem mitzvah Pirya v'Rivya. Anyway, women are not commanded on Pirya v'Rivya. You know the reason why, no?
Pain.
Very good. The Khatam Sofer says that no mitzvah comes with suffering. So he says, since if you would give them a mitzvah to have children, but they suffer through childbirth, so therefore it was not a mitzvah for the women. It's only a mitzvah for the men. Yeah. Tanya Yidach. We also learned in another braita. Rabbi Natan says, Bet Shammai Omrim. Bet Shammai come and they say Zacharu Nekeva uBet Hillel Omrim. So now this is another braita. It's Zacharu Nekeva. Now this was what Bet Hillel said in the Mishnah. This braita now is saying that this is now Shitat Bet Shammai. So what's Shitat Bet Hillel? Bet Hillel Omrim O Zacharu Nekeva or meaning either a boy or a girl. So Amar Rava says, "My Tama de Rabbi Natan alibad Bet Hillel." What's the reason of Rabbi Natan and Bet Hillel? Shneimar, it says, "Lo tov v'ra'ah lashevet yitzara." HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create the world in order, right, that it should be empty. V'ha'avad lashevet. But now, the second you have a boy or a girl, it's dwelled. Meaning, lo tohu v'ra'ah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu did not create it to be tohu, right? So he says to be rek, right? So the tohu is abyss, right? Ela lashevet. Lashevet means to sit down. By the way, halacha l'maaseh, this is an extra mitzvah that even after Pirya v'Rivya, even after procreating, whichever shita that it is, whether it's going to be the boy and the girl, the two boys, there's still a mitzvah to have more children. Why? What is that mitzvah based upon? There's a third one as well, which is Vela'erev al Tanach Yadecha. All this is brought down in Even Ezer Siman Aleph. That there it says, La'erev al Tanach Yadecha means that even if you have children when you're young, you should have children when you're older. Right? Why? Because Vela'erev al Tanach Yadecha, which means that even in the nighttime, don't leave your hand from having, children, which means that even when you get older, still have children. Okay? Itmar, it was stated. Hayulo banim begiyuto v'nitgayer. This is a very interesting question. Imagine right now a person had children when he's a goy. He's a goy. He has children, and now he converts. Yeah, now he converts. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan says, Kiyem Pirya v'Rivya. Yeah, he was mekayem the mitzvah Pirya v'Rivya. He doesn't have to have more children. And Rish Lakish says no, he wasn't mekayem Pirya v'Rivya. Rabbi Yochanan says he was mekayem Pirya v'Rivya. Why? Ta'havule, because he had children. He already had children. You're right. He was a goy when he had the children, but he already had children. Rish Lakish says, what are you talking about? Ger shenitkayer katan shenoladami. A ger that's nitkayer, it's like right now he was born. So if he was right now born, those children are neiches. Now again, here we're talking about that he had children when he was a goy, and when he has children when he's a goy, the children as goyim, and he's a goy, they're mityaches after the child. If a Jew has a child with a goya, that child is not his child, it has nothing to do with him, right? And therefore, it does not have to do with him. He's not mekayim the mitzvah Pirya v'Rivya, because that child is not his child. And even if the child converts later on, that child is still not his child. It's never his child. Here, though, when he was a goy, if a goy has a child, that child is his child, according to everybody. So now the question is, now he converts. So now if he converts, so now what happens with those children? Because when he was a goy, it was his children. So now that he converts, it's not his children. So Rabbi Yochanan says, yes, it's his children. But says Rish Lakish, what are you talking about? The second that he converted, he's a new entity. If he's a new entity, he never had children. Yeah, he's a B'riyah Chadasha. Ve'azdu l'tamayu, and it goes according to the reason. To eat Manabezu was stated, Hayulo banim begeyuto v'nitgayer. Right? If a person had children when he was a goy and then he converted, Rabbi Yochanan says, En lo bechor lenachala. He does not have a bechor to the nachala. Because at the end of the day, right, it's a shitono, which means that right now, if a person was a goy, he had a child, and now all of a sudden he converts, right? There's no more any more bechor. Why is there no more? Because he already had a bechor, right? There was a goy. No, he has bechor nachala. Remember that the second that the person converts, right? So now it's a new din of Yerusha. Yerusha does not go down if this person is not his child. So the same case, if we're plugging them back both in, a person was a goy. He comes and he converts. When he converts, now there's dinei nachala. So therefore, he's not going to inherit the goyim children. He's only going to inherit the Jewish children. The same halacha applies to the Jew. If a Jew gets married to a goya, yeah, and he has a child, right? That child is a goy. the goy does not get his inheritance, right? It's considered that he doesn't have any children. So for after 120, it goes to the closest kin. Now remember that in Judaism, the wife also doesn't inherit, right? So therefore, the closest of kin would be either parents if they're still alive, or if after the parents, brothers and sisters. Those are the only ones that take over, right? Why? Because there's no children. So the same thing here, when a person comes and he has a child, right, and he was a goy, so now as a goy, his children will inherit him. The second he converts, now he comes and he says, now it's now you need another case of inheritance. So it says the Gemara, and you need both cases, not only to do with the pidyav rivya, but also to do with inheritance, of procreating, of having children, but also of inheritance. Why? If it was only going to be brought down the first machloket to do with pidyav rivya, only over there that Rabbi Yochanan comes and he says that if he had children before he converted, that it's still considered pidyav rivya. Why? Because he was also shayach in mitzvah pidyav rivya, right? What does that mean? He was also shayach in the mitzvah pidyav rivya. Rashi says that it says it's Noach ve'banav, meaning the mitzvah pidyav rivya was not only given to the Jews, it was given to Noach and his children. So since it was given to Noach and children, even the Goyim have a mitzvah pidyav rivya. But to do with inheritances, there's no nachalot by the Goyim. So I would say that even Rabbi Yochanan agrees to Resh Lakish. And if the machloket was only brought down to do with nachalot, to do with Yerusha, here Resh Lakish came and he said that it's not considered as children, right? Why? Because Yerushot don't inherit by Goyim. But to do with pidyav rivya, maybe he agrees to Rabbi Yochanan that maybe Bemet, since he already had children when he was a goy, it's still going to be okay. That's why you need both machlokot. That's the Gemara 8, right? We're going to ask the following question. Rabbi Yochanan and Shakish. Ba'et ha'ish shalach berodach beladam ben beladan melech Bavel. Sfarim u'michal Chizkiyahu. So Pasuk says that we're talking about over here, the Oved Kochavim is like a child of the Oved Kochavim. How do we know that a goy is a son of another goy? How do we know that there is genealogy, lineage for the goyim? So he says, it says that he was already his child. It says, but shalach brodach beladan ben beladan melech Bavel. So there is a child, the son of a child. Says the Gemara, he comes and he answers him, you're right. When they're goyim, a goy to another goy, there's genealogy. But once he converts, there's no more genealogy, there's no more lineage. Amar Rav says, everyone agrees that to do with an eved, there's no chayis. That means to do with a slave, there's no genealogy. Why? Because the children of the slaves belong to the master. According to everybody. It says in a pasuk, he went and he said that Eliezer Eved Abraham was an eved. He says he's a chamor. Why? He's an amma domeh lechamor, which means that just like the chamorim, the behemoth, there's no father and child about behemoth. You understand? You're not going to say that, this is the child of the. There's no lineage, genealogy, no lineage. So to the same thing. So Meitve, he says in the pasuk, 1 second. It says Ulbet Shaul Eved Kanani Ushmot Tziva Utziva 15 Banim V'Simavdi. Said he had 15 children, 20 slaves. So Amar Rabbi Yaakov says no. Banav is kemo par ben bakar. It's the same thing. It's like par ben bakar, meaning par ben bakar. We're talking about a par that's a son of a bakar, but it's not really be'emet genealogy. It just means that this is a father and a child, but it's not real genealogy. Okay, so says the Gemara Yihachi. If so, hatam nami, maybe it's the same thing when it says brodach beladam ben beladan. It's just like par ben bakar. So it says no. Shane hatam there it's different because it says yachsel b'shmal v'shma davon. You're bringing down the name of the son and the name of the father to do yichus, to do genealogy. The Hechal lo mefaresh, but here it's not explaining anything. If you could answer another answer, there we were making in another place that it was the name of the father and the grandfather. Because it says in a pasuk, V'yishlachem HaMelech Hasa El Ben Hadad, Ben Tarbimon, Ben Chezyon, Melech Haram, Lemor. So therefore it was a son, father, grandfather. It continued going in the genealogy. So therefore sure it was giving us, right, the lineage. Okay, next halacha, very important machloket in halachot. Itmar, it was stated, Hayulo banim vametu. When a person had children and they died. So says the Gemara, Ravuna says he was mekayem mitzvah pidyav rivya. He doesn't have to have more children. Rabbi Yochanan says he was not mekayem pidyav rivya. Right? He has to have more children. Ravuna Amar kiyem why says because Ravasi says Em ben David bad shichlu kol haneshamos shebaguf. Says that David HaMelech, which Ben David here means that Yishai, right? They're talking about Mashiach. Mashiach will only come until all the neshamot in the guf are going to be created, which means that we have a certain amount of neshamot, which are new neshamot, and those new neshamot have to be born. So every single time that you have a child, you're bringing down a neshama. Sometimes they're good gilgulim, but sometimes they're new neshamot. So if you're bringing down now these neshamot, if they're going to finish, now Ben David will be able to come.
Redemption.
That's why, by the way, the Gaon Vilna wanted to take away the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. Rabbeinu Gershom for the Ashkenazim made a cherem that you're not allowed to have more than one wife. The Gaon Vilna wanted to take it away because he said, if you have more than one wife, you could have more children. If you could have more children, you're quickening the Mashiach. So he wanted to take away the cherem of Rabbeinu Gershom. It never actually worked, but that's what he wanted to do. You're not allowed to have more than one wife. Okay, Shneimar says in Pasuk, Kiluach b'nefana Yaatov. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Rabbi Yochanan says you're not going to be Mekayim Mitzvah Pidei Rivya. Lashevet Yitzara Ba'ina Veleka. At the end of the day, you need the children to live in the world. And if they're not living in the world because they died, so then there's no Pidei Rivya. Meitvei, so now we're going to ask the question. Meitvei, Samechbet Amubet, 62b. This is where we have the story of Rabbi Kiva. Bnei banim arein kebanim. Grandchildren are like children. So says the Gemara. So you see from here that a person is not going to be niftar, he's not going to be exempt from Pidei Rivya only through children that die, but you have to have grandchildren as well. So says the Gemara, no, Kitanya hi, what are we talking about that? Lashlim, to finish obligation. Right? What does that mean? That means in a case where you have bnei banim, meaning grandchildren, so therefore we're going to consider the grandchildren like his children to be mekayim the mitzvah Pidei Rivya. So Meitvei, we're going to ask the following question. What happens if one of them died? Or so he was sterile. He's not mekayim Pidei Rivya. To the Ravuna, it's a refutation against Ravuna. But the Ravuna wanted to say that even if they died, he was mekayim Pidei Rivya. Says the Gemara, you're right. That's a good refutation against him. Because here you see mefurash that if one of the children was sterile or right, they died, you're not going to be mekayim the mitzvah. And that is the halakha, you're right. Bnei banim, harem kabanim. What does it mean that the grandchildren like the children? Rabbi was thought to say, bra libra, ubrata librata. He thought to say that it had to be a boy to the boy and a girl to the girl. Okay? So he says, v'kol sheken, and all the more so, a boy to a girl, but right, a boy to the girl. Aval barta libra lo, but a girl to the boy instead of the boy, no. So Elmaleh Rava says, lashevet yitzara baya. You need that there should always be a continuation. The ha'ika, and therefore there is. By the way, this is a whole pilpul. What happens if a person only has boys? Only has boys. But now that boy, one of his boys, has a boy and a girl. So there's a whole question, is he now mekayem the mitzvah Pidei Rivya? Because now that he has a boy and a girl, so now retroactively, do you say that the father also was mekayem? Because at the time he only had boys. So according to Bet Shammai, he was mekayem. According to Bet Hillel, you need a boy and a girl. He didn't have the girl. Exactly. So it says, we're going to see now. So it says the Gemara, Bnei banim. So Abaye thought to say that you're going to be Elmaleh Rava l'shevet vayika. So it says the Gemara, Dechule alma mihat. Everyone agrees that if you have two nichadim from one child, that means if you have a boy and a girl from one of the children that you had, for sure you're not going to be tzedek chuvah. Velo, but it's not true. Rabbanan Rav Sheshat says Rabbanan to Rav Sheshat, Nesiv hitita ve'oli baneh. Get married to a woman and have children. Ve'amalu, when he told them, Bnei barti banai minu. He says, what are you talking about? The children of my daughter are my children, which means he was already mekayem Pidei Rivya through his children because they had girls. So the fact that they had girls, so he was also mekayem. That means they had girls and boys, obviously. So they were mekayem. So says the man, no. There he was just pushing them off. Meaning he didn't answer that because be'emet, according to the halacha, he was mekayem the mitzvah. He was just trying to push them off because he didn't want to do that. Rav Sheshat, Rav Sheshat, he became an akar from the shiurim of Rav Huna. What does that mean? Rav Huna used to take a very, very long time in the shiur. And in the olden days, it didn't exist that somebody would go to the washroom in the middle of the shiur. It was disrespectful. Right? So what happened? They would have to hold it in the entire time. Now we know, very good, it's an isur. What happens is you could become sterile if you hold it in. So because of that, they came and they said that he became an akar from the shiurim of Rav Huna, so he couldn't have any children anyway. Right? So therefore, he was just trying to push them off because he already knew that he couldn't have children anyway, even if he wanted to. So therefore, but why? Because he used to stay in the shiur until the end, and he used to take a long shiur. Yeah? Fine. So says the Gemara, Elmaleh Rabba le Rabba bar Madi, says Rabba to Rabba bar Madi, how do we know this concept that grandchildren are considered like children? Says the Gemara, you're going to tell me because it's written in the Pasuk, Habanot benotai v'banim manai. It's written by Lavan. Lavan comes and he says, 1 second, Habanot benotai, the girls, remember, Lavan only had girls at the beginning, right? Who did he have? He had Rachel and Leah, and he had Zilpa, Bilhan Zilpa. Yeah, he had 4 girls. Afterwards, he had boys. Once Yaakov came along, then he started having boys. But so he comes and he says, Abanot benotai, the daughters are my daughters, Banim banai, and the boys are my children. Now, 1 second. What does it mean, Banim banai? They're his grandchildren, not his children. So Ela me'ata, so 1 second, he says Ratzon Tzoni. He said the sheep are mine also. What does that mean? Hachanami, you're going to tell me that they're also his children? Ela, but rather the kanit minai, that you acquired it from me. Hachanami, so to hear the kanit minai, that you acquired them from me, that it's not the bemet, it's his children. So you can't bring a proof from Laban, because he was just saying that you acquired the girls from me, and therefore the children are from me. Ela mehach, exactly, everything belongs to him. There's a lot of people like that. They always say, everything's mine. Well, everything's yours. Everything's mine. So Ela mehacha, he comes and he says another proof. לאחר בחצרון בת מחילה בגילה ותלד לא צגוף וכתיב מינים מחיל ירדו מחוקקים וכתיב יהודה מחוקקים. So he says here, if right now the מחוקקים come from Shevet Yehuda, so then the מחוקקים were coming from Machid, which are from Shevet Menashe. So therefore, what are you talking about there? So that means obviously it's coming from Bnei Beto, which is from Shevet Yehuda, just like the children of Machid himself, because Bnei Banot are considered like Banim, right? Remember, Menashe comes from Yosef. Right? And Yehuda is Mechokaki. So what's going on over here? So he comes and he says, so obviously there was a marriage there, and therefore he's coming in and saying that there was going to be also like grandchildren. So says the Gemara, so Matnitim Dilak Rabbi Yeshua. So obviously, right, this Mishnah, okay, so that means 1 second. So we just finished by explaining that Benim Banot are considered Banim from that pasuk, from the Yehuda Mechokaki, that they're coming from Yehuda, even though it's from Machi. So now the Gemara is going on to the next point, which is, what do we mention? We mention about having children. So this is what I mentioned to you at the beginning of the class, that there's 3 mitzvot from having children. Procreating, which means the world was not created that you shouldn't have children. So even after have more children. And right, in the nighttime, don't leave your hand from it. So obviously our Mishnah is not like Rabbi Yeshua. The time was learned in Braita. Rabbi Yeshua says, if a person comes and he gets married when he's young, he should get married when he's older. If he had children when he was younger, you should have children when he's older. Rabbi says in the pasuk, in the morning when you plant your seeds, but don't leave your hand from it in the nighttime. Because you don't know which ones are going to be good. Which ones? Because sometimes you can have children that they're better than the first ones, sometimes the better ones. You don't know which ones. If they're both going to be good, so they're even better, even more so. It's like Rabbi Kiva says, Lemat Torah. When you learn Torah when you're young, you should learn Torah when you're older. This is the Gemara. He had students when he was younger. Also have students when you're older. Says in Pasuk, so we're comparing students to children. Amru, they said, look how incredible. We just quoted this Gemara yesterday. And Sudash Lishit, and here's the Gemara. They said that he had 12,000 groups, students, right? That there was 2 Talmidim to Rabbi Kiva, so that's 24,000. From Givat until Antipras, all right? Antipras. So therefore it says over here, they were all part of all over Eretz Yisrael, all over, right, the land of Yehuda. They all died in the same time frame. They didn't give kavod to each other. The Olam Shamem, and the world was Shamem, was desolate from the Torah. Until Rabbi Kiva came to the rabbis in the south, and he taught them. These are Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Ben Balanes, Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, and the Emidu Torah Be'otasha. They were the ones that disseminated the Torah throughout the entire world. So Namash, we just learned this yesterday. The Tana we learned also, they all died from Pesach until Shavuot. We're in the middle of Sefirat HaOmer now. Amar Rav Chama bar Abba, and this is Parashat Kedoshim to do with Ve'avtala Chakamocha, right? Amar Rav Chama bar Abba, we missed a shiur yesterday, Richard. Right? It says Rav Chama bar Abba, V'itei man tzam Rav Chia bar Avin, Kulam metu mita ra'a. They all died a terrible death. What was a terrible death? What is it? Rav Nachman Askera. If you remember the Gemara Berachot of Chet Amud Aleph says that Askera is the worst of the worst. It's like COVID. It's the worst of all deaths. What does that mean? Because if you remember, we said that it's a problem of like strangulation. It feels like that they can't breathe. So therefore, we said, if you remember there, that the lightest of the death was mitat neshika. Mitat neshika is the kiss of death. It's like you're taking a hair from milk, right? That's what the Gemara says, right? What is the strongest one? Bermudan Triangle. You remember? The Gemara there says the Bermudan Triangle. That's the strongest of the death. It's like it says there that there's a Rashi there quotes the Gemara. Rashi on the Gemara, he says there that there are certain places in the sea that they do not accept metal, and therefore they have to make everything out of wood. Why? Because if it has metal, it's going to grab it. So the Rashash there, right on the Gemara says that in underneath the Atlantic Ocean, there are certain places, because there's actually two. The most famous one is the Bermudan Triangle, but there's one also by Japan area. Right? There's also the exact same type of a triangle, also in that area. Yeah, Mishulash Bermuda is the Bermudan Triangle, but there's another one also in the other side of the sea. Right? So it says there that what happens is underneath, there's a metal, and the metal is going to come and it's going to attract, right? Brachot, I told you, Chet Amud Aleph.
Wow.
Fine. Says the Gemara, Mishulash Bermuda. Yeah? The Gemara. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav Matna Halakha Rabbi Yoshua. The Halakha is like Rabbi Yoshua, that even if a person had children, he's still obligated to have even more children. Amar Rabbi Tanchum Amar Chelina. It says Rabbi Tanchum Amar Chelina. Kol Adam Shelo Isha Sharui B'lo Simcha. There's another one brought down in Mamash. This is the beginning Siman Aleph of Shulchan Aruch Even HaEzer. Mamash, the first Siman in Shulchan Aruch, right, of Even HaEzer, right, to do with marriages. He says a man that does not have a woman, he's without simcha, without joy, without beracha, without good, without tova, without simcha. But it's written v'samachta ata v'techa. You have to be happy, you in your house, right? Below beracha, tichtiv laniach beracha al betecha. You have to have beracha in your house. Below tova, tichtiv says lo tova yot adam levado. It's not good for a person to be by himself. And Marava says, but more things also. He's without Torah. He's without a wall. He's with why? Without Torah, because it's written Haim Enu Ezra Tibi V'Tushi Many, which means he doesn't have any help. So he doesn't have an Ezra, an Ezer can go. So he doesn't have any Torah. Without a wall, because remember, Nekeva Tesovev Gever, right? The Nekeva, the female, always surrounds the husband. By the way, this is one of the reasons why the Ashkenazim, they go around the husband a few times, to make him dizzy, by the going around, before the wedding. Because Nekeva Tesovev Gever, she's going to go around the husband. She's making for him a wall. Rava Barula says also below Shalom without peace. By the way, Baba Haki, I want you to teach the people, right? How many times I come and I give a mishabrach, and I always tell them, lechaye nevav beto, and then he goes, yeah, lechaye ishto. I said, yeah, I just said it, nevav beto. Then no, but ishto. I said, ishto is nevav beto. How do you know that? It's written. You just read the pasuk. The pasuk. No, that's another one. That's a beto. But nevat beto ufakatan navecha velo techeta. Navecha, nevat beto. That's his wife. A wife of a person is called ufakatan navecha velo techeta. Okay, so therefore, aolecha is obviously the tent, which is with a wife, and therefore it comes and he says, right. So that's why when we say nevat beto, it means the wife of a person. Amar Rabbi Shimon Levi says, Rabbi Shimon Levi. If anybody knows that his wife is Yirat Shamayim, ve'ena pogdan, he doesn't give her relations when she needs it. Nikra choteh. He's called a sinner. Yeah, mamash, a person's a sinner. He doesn't give to his wife relations, he's a sinner. By the way, in Ilchot Ketubot, he doesn't know this, but if a man comes and he doesn't want to give his wife relations when he's supposed to give her the relations, which is minimum of twice a week for regular workers, so therefore what happens is that he gets a penalty that they add on to her ketubah. Meaning she could take him to Bedin, and they would add on to her ketubah every single day that he doesn't have a relations with her, adding money. He has to pay her more money.
That twice a week can't be for a 65-year-old.
That twice a week is for the rest of your life. Yeah. And by the way, if he's retired, it's every single day.
God help me.
Yeah. What? Also the same thing. They reduce from her ketubah. That's called a moredet. There's a mored and moredet. There's a siman shalem in Shulchan Aruch. Right? It's a full siman in Shulchan Aruch just on this. Okay? Says the Gemara, I could show it to you afterwards, Richard, if you want. I'll show it to you where it is in Shulchan Aruch. Says the Gemara, when a person's traveling, he also has to give his wife relations. It says in Pasuk before he travels. As it says in Pasuk, also, but it's not the same mitzvah. It says in Pasuk, you're going to learn from here. They learn in which means the woman is mishoshkeket al bala when he's going out. Some of Yosef says only when it's close to her vest. That means she was going to receive her period. But there's still a heter that if she's going to receive her period and he's traveling, he could still have relations with her right before receiving her period, even though we suspect that maybe she could receive her period in the next next while, in order that he should be mekayem the mitzvah. The kama amarava ona, one ona. When is this? Only if he's going for dvar shoot for whatever it is. But if he's going for a mitzvah, mitrde, he's patur. So if a person's going for a mitzvah, he's doing a mitzvah, whatever, we're going to see what the mitzvah is, whatever. So then he doesn't have to give her the relations. But if he's going for business or pleasure or whatever, he's obligated to give her the relations before he travels. Obligated. Says the Gemara, we learned to the right. A person loves his wife like his body. and he respects her more than his body, and he's going to educate his children in the proper path. He's going to get them married when they're close to the age of marriage. On him, the pasuk says, you know that you're going to have peace in your tents. And we continue tomorrow.